The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a silver teardrop. Commander Olivia Wright stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, her hands clasped behind her back as she stared at the main screen. The ship had appeared 3 days ago, and humanity had been holding its breath ever since. "Any change in their status?" Olivia asked, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the bridge. Lieutenant Jack Simmons looked up from his console. "No, Commander. They're maintaining position, still broadcasting the same message on all frequencies." Olivia nodded. 3 years ago, humans had discovered faster-than-light travel. 6 months ago, they had received their first transmission from something calling itself the Galactic Council. And now, representatives of that council were here, hanging above, Earth like gods from ancient myths. "Commander," said Communications Officer Kelly Martinez, "we're receiving a new transmission. They're requesting permission to send a shuttle to the International Space Station." Olivia took a deep breath. This was it. First contact. "Inform United Earth Command. Tell them we await their decision." 12 hours later, Olivia stood in the observation deck of the International Space Station alongside Captain Daniel Green, Earth's chosen diplomatic liaison. Through the large window they watched as the alien shuttle approached. It was smaller than Olivia had expected, with smooth lines that seemed to bend light around them. "Ready for this, Captain?" she asked. Daniel adjusted his uniform. "As ready as anyone can be for meeting aliens, Commander." The shuttle docked with barely a sound. When the airlock opened, Olivia felt her breath catch. The alien that stepped through was tall and slender, with translucent blue skin that seemed to pulse with inner light. 6 glowing eyes arranged in a circle gazed at them with calm intelligence. "I am Zalantir, ambassador of the Lorixi and representative of the Galactic Council," the alien said, its voice flowing like water. "I bring greetings and an invitation to humanity." Daniel stepped forward. "I am Captain Daniel Green, representing the United Earth Government. We welcome you to Earth." The meeting room was simple but comfortable. Olivia stood by the wall as Daniel and 3 members of Earth Security Council sat across from Ambassador Zalantir. 2 other aliens had joined them, a reptilian being with golden scales who represented something called the Vextari, and a short, stocky creature with multiple limbs who was introduced as a Agenda diplomat. "The Galactic Council consists of 27 advanced species," Zalantir explained. "We have watched humanity's progress with great interest. Your development of faster-than-light travel has qualified you for membership." "Membership would mean what exactly?" asked Security Counselor Richard Baker. The golden-scaled Vexitari spoke, its voice like rustling leaves. "Access to technologies beyond your current understanding. Medical advances that have eliminated disease among council, races, clean energy solutions, and protection from less friendly species that exist in the galaxy. In exchange for?" Daniel asked, his eyes narrowed slightly. "A fair exchange of resources," said the multi-limbed Agenda. "Cultural sharing, and adherence to council regulations regarding interstellar travel and colonization." Olivia watched Daniel's face carefully. She had worked with him for years and could tell he was suspicious. So was she. It all seemed too good to be true. "We would need time to consider such an offer," Daniel said carefully. Zalantir's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Of course. We understand this is a significant decision. We will provide detailed information about the Council and its benefits. You may take one of your Earth months to decide." 3 weeks later, Olivia found herself in a closed meeting with Daniel and several high-ranking military officials. "It doesn't add up," Daniel was saying. "They're offering too much and asking for too little. In my experience, that usually means there's a catch somewhere." General Patricia Martinez nodded. "I agree. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Why would they share it so freely? Perhaps they're genuinely peaceful and wish to help less advanced species," suggested Admiral William Johnson, though he didn't sound convinced. Olivia spoke up. "Or perhaps what they really want isn't in the official agreement. Has anyone analyzed the translation of the membership documents?" "Our best linguists and lawyers have gone over everything," said General Martinez. There are some complex clauses about resource rights, but nothing that seems immediately dangerous. Daniel shook his head. I still don't trust it. We should delay, ask for more time. But they were outvoted. The United Earth government, eager for the advanced technologies and protection offered, voted to accept council membership. 1 week later, humanity became the 28th species of the Galactic Council. The celebration was worldwide. Salantir spoke to billions via global broadcast, promising a new era of prosperity and advancement for Earth. The first human delegation was selected to visit the Council space station called Harmonious Unity. Olivia and Daniel were both chosen to go. The journey took 5 days aboard a Council transport vessel. When they emerged from faster-than-light travel, Olivia gasped. The station was enormous, a spinning wheel of metal and light that dwarfed anything humans had built. Magnificent, isn't it? Said Salantir, who had accompanied them. Home to representatives of all Council species. As they docked and were escorted to their quarters, Lieutenant Jack Simmons fell into step beside Olivia. Commander, something feels off, he whispered. They promised us a full tour of the station, but I've noticed several areas are being deliberately avoided, and our quarters are in a completely different section than what was described in the information packet. Note any discrepancies, Olivia told him quietly. We'll discuss it later. That night in her assigned room, Olivia couldn't sleep. The room was luxurious, but something about it felt artificial, like a carefully constructed exhibit. She pulled out her personal tablet and began reviewing the council membership agreement again. A soft knock on her door interrupted her. It was Daniel, looking troubled. I couldn't sleep either, he said as she let him in. Have you noticed how the other new species representatives are treated? The Felorians joined only 50 years ago, and they're practically servants here. Olivia nodded. And did you see the mining operation they showed us? Those weren't Lorixi workers, they looked broken somehow. Daniel sat down heavily. I've been talking with some of the junior representatives, the Triumvirate, the Lorixi, Vextari, and Genda. They control everything. The council votes are just for show. A chill ran down Olivia's spine. So what exactly did we sign up for? I don't know, Daniel said grimly, but I'm going to find out. Outside the window of Olivia's room, the vast expanse of space stretched endlessly. Somewhere out there was Earth, beautiful and blue and suddenly very vulnerable. As she looked out at the stars, Olivia made a silent promise to her home planet. If the council had plans for Earth that went beyond what was promised, they would soon discover that humans weren't so easily controlled. What neither Olivia nor Daniel knew was that in a secure chamber deep within the station, the Triumvirate was already discussing Phase 1 of Earth's integration, a process that had nothing to do with the grand promises made to humanity, and everything to do with slowly turning Earth into just another resource to be harvested. 5 years had passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Dr. Laura Chen stared at her computer screen in disbelief. As a xenobiologist working in the Council's scientific division, she had access to medical files from across the galaxy. What she had just discovered made her blood run cold. Laura looked around the lab nervously. She was alone, but she knew Council security systems were everywhere. Quickly, she downloaded the files to a secure drive and slipped it into her pocket. The information was too important to ignore. The files showed a pattern. Every new species that joined the Council suffered the same fate. First came technological gifts and promises. Then came increased resource demands. Finally, the species found themselves little more than workers, their home planet slowly drained of valuable minerals and resources. On the other side of the massive space station, Sam Crawford was reviewing trade reports. As Earth's trade representative, it was his job to track what Earth sent to the Council and what they received in return. The numbers didn't make sense. This can't be right, Sam muttered. Earth's exports of rare minerals had tripled in the past year alone. Meanwhile, the technology imports had slowed to a trickle. The advanced medical equipment promised years ago had never arrived. Instead, Earth received outdated systems that were barely better than what humans had already developed. Sam gathered his notes and headed to meet with his supervisor, Counselor Miranda Ellis. Miranda was one of the few humans with a position of any authority in the council, though even she was kept away from the most important decisions. "I've noticed the same thing," Miranda said when Sam showed her the reports. They sat in her small office, speaking in hushed tones. "And it's not just resources. Have you seen the new health monitoring devices they're distributing on Earth? I requested the technical specifications 3 times and keep getting denied." Sam leaned forward. "Do you think we're being used?" Miranda's expression was grim. "I think we need to find out exactly what we signed up for." Back on Earth, former military officer Alan Parker walked through a mining community in what used to be called Colorado. As a security consultant, he had been asked to investigate a series of mysterious illnesses affecting the miners. "When did the symptoms first appear?" Alan asked the mining foreman. "About 6 months ago," the man replied. "Right after we started using those new drilling machines the council gave us. Great technology, cuts through rock like butter, but then people started getting sick." Alan studied the medical reports. The symptoms were strange: blue lines under the skin, headaches, and a progressive weakness that left victims bedridden within weeks. Nothing in human medical records matched these symptoms. That evening, Alan received an encrypted message from an old friend, Dr. Laura Chen. They had trained together before Laura was selected for the council assignment. The message contained medical files and a short note. "Compare these to your mining illness. We need to talk." Alan opened the files. They contained cases of industrial poisoning on a planet called Kepler 22b, which had joined the council a century earlier. The symptoms matched exactly what he was seeing in the mining community. But there was more. Notes indicating that the poisoning was a known side effect of the mining technology, one the council had decided was acceptable given the value of the minerals being extracted. The next day on the council station, Miranda and Sam met in a maintenance corridor that Sam had discovered was free of monitoring devices. "I found something," Miranda whispered. She produced a small device. "This is a modified translator. One of the Felorian technicians gave it to me. He said it would show me the truth." Sam looked confused. "What truth? We already understand the council languages." "Not all of them," Miranda said. "According to him, there's a linguistic subcategory used in official documents that our standard translators are programmed to ignore." They plugged the device into Sam's tablet and loaded the original council membership agreement Earth had signed. As the new translation appeared, their faces paled. Hidden in what had appeared to be ceremonial phrasing were clauses that essentially granted the triumvirate ownership rights to Earth and its people. One section specifically mentioned population management protocols that could be enacted if humans became problematic. "They never intended to treat us as equals," Sam said, his voice shaking. "We're just another resource to exploit until there's nothing left." Miranda nodded grimly. "And I'd bet every other junior species on the council is in the same position. We need evidence, irrefutable proof that can't be denied." Meanwhile, in her lab, Laura was scanning more medical files when an alert flashed on her screen. Someone was accessing her search history. She quickly initiated a data purge, but it was too late. The lab doors slid open, and 2 Vextari security officers entered. "Dr. Chen, you are accessing restricted files," one said, its reptilian face expressionless. "You will come with us for questioning." Laura glanced at her computer. The download to Sam was still in progress, 89% complete. She needed to stall. "I'm conducting authorized medical research," she said, taking a step away from her desk. "Check with Director Kalin." Director Kalin did not authorize access to Kepler 22b medical archives, the security officer said, advancing toward her. Laura's mind raced. The lab had an emergency evacuation protocol for chemical spills. If she could trigger it, with a quick movement, she knocked over a container of harmless saline solution and slammed her hand on the emergency button. Alarms blared, and emergency decontamination procedures activated. In the confusion, Laura managed to slip past the security officers and out a side door. She ran through the corridors, knowing she had minutes at most before the entire station was locked down. She reached a public communication terminal and sent one final message to Sam. They know. Trust no one. Find Commander Wright. As Vextari security forces closed in, Laura smiled grimly. The download had reached 100%. The truth about the Council's exploitation was out. Now it was up to others to use it. On Earth, Commander Olivia Wright, now Admiral Wright, sat in her office at the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters. A secure message had just arrived from Captain Daniel Green, who had been investigating Council activities in the outer colonies. They're not allies, the message read. They're parasites, and we're the host. Admiral Wright stared out her window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, humans were discovering the truth about their so-called benefactors. A slow anger built inside her. The Council had lied to humanity, used them, poisoned them. It was time to fight back. She picked up her secure communicator. Get me Lieutenant Simmons, immediately. The pieces were falling into place and humanity was waking up to the truth. 1 year had passed since Dr. Laura Chen's escape. A network of humans now operated in secret across Council space. They called themselves Liberty's Children. They communicated using modified devices created by engineer Nicole Watson, who had discovered a way to bypass Council monitoring systems. Miranda Ellis maintained her position on the Council, appearing loyal while secretly passing information to the Resistance. It was dangerous work. The Genda were experts at detecting lies, and she had several close calls. The Council is increasing patrols near the mining colonies, Miranda told Sam Crawford during a rare secure meeting. They met in a maintenance tunnel beneath the Council station, where Nicole's devices blocked surveillance. Sam nodded. They're getting nervous. Frank Nelson's team on Proxima Centauri 4 has been hiding the most valuable minerals for months. The shipments are coming in light and the triumvirate is noticing. How's Dr. Chen? Miranda asked. Safe, for now. She and Kevin Robinson have set up a lab on Mars. They're making progress on understanding the translation devices. On Mars, inside, an abandoned mining facility converted into a secret laboratory, Laura Chen examined data from her latest experiment. Kevin Robinson, a brilliant physicist who had joined the Resistance, looked over her shoulder. It's worse than we thought, Laura said. The translation devices don't just translate, they influence brain chemistry, making humans more agreeable to Council demands. Kevin frowned. Can we reverse it? I think so. But there's something else. Laura pulled up a genetic diagram. Humans have unusual genetic adaptability compared to other Council species. We resist control measures better than any species they've encountered before. That's why they're increasing the chemical agents in Earth's water. Is that why they're rushing the integration timeline? Kevin asked. Laura nodded. According to the files Miranda sent, they typically take a century to fully subjugate a species. With us, they're trying to do it in decades. They're afraid of us. On Proxima Centauri 4, Frank Nelson wiped sweat from his brow as he descended deep into the mines. A former construction worker from Seattle, Frank now led 200 miners in a quiet rebellion. Today they were hiding another shipment of rare minerals the Council coveted. This batch goes in Tunnel 6, Frank told his team. Remember, official records show this area collapsed last month. The miners worked quickly, moving crates of valuable ore into a hidden chamber. Above them, Council inspectors waited impatiently for the day's shipment, unaware that what they would receive was mostly worthless rock with just enough valuable minerals to avoid suspicion. Why not just refuse to mine at all? Asked a new worker. Because then they'd replace us, Frank explained. Probably with slave labor from another world. This way we slow them down while building our reserves. When the time comes to fight back, we'll need these resources. On Earth, Admiral Olivia Wright met with Colonel Jack Simmons in a secure room beneath the old Pentagon. Maps of Council space covered the walls with red marks indicating potential weaknesses. How many ships do we have? Jack asked. 23, Olivia replied. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, modified with tech we've reverse-engineered from Council vessels. Not enough for a direct confrontation, but enough to cause problems if needed. Jack nodded. And our allies? Growing. Miranda has made contact with representatives from the Felorians and the Nebulan cluster. They've been under council control. Longer than us, but they're willing to help if we can prove the Triumvirate's deception. We need that proof soon, Jack said grimly. My sources in the United Earth government say the council is planning to announce mandatory health screenings for all humans next month. Olivia's face hardened. Control implants, you think? That would be my guess. Once those are in place, organizing resistance becomes nearly impossible. On the council station, Miranda attended a high-level meeting. As one of the few humans with security clearance, she was often invited to observe but rarely asked to contribute. Today, however, was different. Zaylon Tyr, the Lorixi ambassador who had first welcomed Earth to the council, addressed her directly. Councillor Ellis, we have concerns about productivity in the Earth mining sectors. Output has decreased by 12% in the past quarter. Miranda kept her face neutral. There have been some technical difficulties with the new equipment. I've requested maintenance teams. That won't be necessary, interrupted the Vexitari representative. We are sending our own specialists to examine the operations. Miranda felt a chill. Council specialists usually meant security forces. Frank's operation would be in danger. As you wish, she said, bowing slightly. As soon as the meeting ended, she hurried to send a warning through the secure network. But it was too late. As her message transmitted, alarms sounded throughout the station. Security forces rushed past her toward the communication hub. Breach detected in Sector 7, announced a calm voice over the station's speakers. All personnel report to security. Checkpoints for verification. Miranda's heart raced. Sector 7 was where Sam Crawford worked. Had he been discovered? She made her way toward the human quarters, trying to appear calm. When she rounded a corner, she nearly collided with a Agenda security officer. Councillor Ellis, it said, multiple, limbs shifting restlessly. You are required for questioning. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, a resistance meeting ended in chaos as council forces raided their hidden base. Sam Crawford, who had been there delivering information from Miranda, was captured while helping others escape. Under the harsh lights of a council interrogation chamber, Sam faced Agenda Inquisitor. The alien's multiple limbs moved constantly as it circled him. We know about the resistance, human, it said. Give us the names and locations of your leaders and your punishment will be lessened. Sam remained silent, focusing on his training. Dr. Chen had discovered that the Agenda could sense fear but couldn't read actual thoughts. If he stayed calm and said nothing, he might survive. Back on Earth, Captain Daniel Green watched as his 8-year-old daughter Emma played in their backyard. She had been sick for weeks with symptoms doctors couldn't explain. When he had taken her to a council medical facility, they had given her medicine that seemed to help, but Daniel remained suspicious. That night, while Emma slept, Daniel used a modified scanner he had obtained from the Resistance. What he found confirmed his worst fears. Microscopic devices floated in Emma's bloodstream, technology far beyond what the Council had shared with humans. With shaking hands, Daniel contacted Colonel Jack Simmons. They're experimenting on our children, he said, his voice breaking with rage. I'm in. Whatever you need me to do to bring them down, I'm in. Across the solar system, as Council forces increased their pressure, the human resistance grew stronger. Laura Chen and Kevin Robinson worked tirelessly on their Mars laboratory. Frank Nelson's miners prepared for the coming confrontation, and Admiral Wright's hidden fleet continued to train and prepare. The Council thought they had humanity firmly under control. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Admiral Olivia Wright stood in the command center of her flagship, hidden deep within the asteroid belt. The ship, once a standard Earth vessel, now contained modified engines and weapon systems based on Council technology that Dr. Chen and Kevin Robinson had reverse-engineered. 22 similar ships were scattered throughout the solar system, waiting for her signal. Admiral, we've received word from Miranda, reported her communications officer. The Council has moved up the timeline for the mandatory health screenings. They begin in 3 days. Olivia's expression remained calm, but inside she felt a growing urgency. The health screenings were almost certainly a cover for implanting control devices in humans. Once those were in place, resistance would become nearly impossible. "Send word to all cell leaders," she ordered. "We're moving to stage 2. On Mars, Laura Chen looked through a microscope at the tiny device she had extracted from a council translation unit. Next to her, Kevin Robinson monitored brainwave patterns on a screen. "It's definitely affecting neural pathways," Laura said. "Subtle enough that people don't notice, but it makes them more accepting of authority, less likely to question instructions." Kevin nodded. "The good news is I think we've found a way to block the signal. It's a specific frequency that interferes with the frontal lobe. If we broadcast a counter frequency, we could wake people up," Laura finished. "How soon can we test it?" "I've built a prototype transmitter," Kevin said. "Small range, but if it works, we can build more powerful versions." On the council station, Miranda Ellis slipped through service corridors, avoiding security checkpoints. Since Sam's capture, surveillance had increased dramatically. She had been questioned twice but had managed to convince the Genda she knew nothing of the resistance. Today she had taken an enormous risk. Using Nicole Watson's technology, she had planted a recording device in the council's main chamber. If she was caught, execution would be immediate, but the information was worth the risk. When she reached her quarters, Miranda locked the door and activated the signal jammers hidden throughout the room. Then she retrieved the recording device from her pocket and played back what it had captured. Her blood ran cold as she listened. The triumvirate was meeting with representatives from a previously unknown species called the Dravidi Empire. They were discussing dividing human territories once the containment protocols were complete. "The mining colonies will fall under Dravidi control," the Vextari representative was saying. "Earth itself will remain under council authority until resources are depleted." "And the humans?" asked a harsh, unfamiliar voice that must belong to the Dravidi. "Once implanted, they make excellent workers," replied Zelon Tyr. "When Earth is no longer viable, the population can be relocated to labor camps in the outer systems." Miranda's hands shook as she copied the recording to a secure drive. This was the evidence they needed, proof of the Council's true intentions for humanity. Now she just had to get it out. On Proxima Centauri 4, Frank Nelson and his miners prepared for trouble. The warning from Miranda had arrived just in time. Council specialists were on their way, which meant their secret operation was in danger. "Move everything from tunnels 6 and 7 to the deep storage," Frank ordered, "and get the families to the backup shelters." The miners worked quickly, transferring hidden ore and equipment to caverns they had secretly expanded over the past year. These spaces didn't appear on any official maps and were shielded against standard council scanning technology. As the last families moved to safety, Frank gathered his defense team. They had modified mining equipment into makeshift weapons. Nothing that would stand against a full military force, but enough to slow down the specialists and buy time. "Remember," Frank told them, "we're not trying to win a battle here. We just need to hold them off long enough for the Admiral's plan to work." Colonel Jack Simmons led a small team through the dark corridors of the Council's central archive on Lorixi Prime. This mission was a desperate gamble, infiltrating one of the most secure facilities in Council space to download the complete history of the Council's systematic exploitation of new species. "Security patrol in 30 seconds, whispered one of his team members. "Hold position." They pressed themselves against the wall as a Lorixi guard floated past, its translucent body glowing softly in the darkness. When it had gone, they continued, toward the central data core. "This is it," Jack said when they reached a massive door made of some unknown material. "Nicole, you're up." Nicole Watson, the engineer who had created their communication network, stepped forward with a device she had designed specifically for this mission. She attached it to the security panel beside the door. "This will either get us in," she said, "or set off every alarm in the facility." Everyone held their breath as Nicole activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber filled with data storage units. At the center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light. "The Central Archive," Jack whispered. "Everything the Council has ever done is recorded. Here." Nicole moved to a control panel and began the download process. "This will take at least 10 minutes, she warned. "Keep watch," Jack ordered the others. "If anything moves, we need to know." Back on Earth, Captain Daniel Green watched as Council A shuttles descended toward major cities. The health screening centers were being established earlier than expected. He had to act fast. Using emergency protocols, Daniel called a meeting of Earth Defense Fleet officers who were not yet under Council influence. 20 men and women gathered in a secure bunker beneath New York. "My daughter was implanted with monitoring devices without our knowledge or consent," Daniel told them, showing scans of the microscopic machines in Emma's bloodstream. "I believe these health screenings are meant to implant similar or worse devices in all humans." The officers exchanged worried glances. "What can we do?" asked one. "The Council has ships in orbit. If we resist openly, they could devastate our cities." "We don't need to fight them directly," Daniel said. "Admiral Wright has a plan. But we need to slow down the screening process, create delays, technical problems, anything to buy time." As the meeting continued, Dr. Chen activated her prototype transmitter on Mars. The counter-frequency spread across the settlement, blocking the subtle influence of the Council's translation devices. The effect was immediate. Humans throughout the settlement stopped what they were doing, looking around in confusion as if waking from a dream. Many removed their translation devices, suddenly suspicious of the technology they had used without question for years. "It works," Laura told Kevin, watching the monitors. "Now we need to scale it up, planet-wide." Across the solar system, humanity prepared for the most important battle in its history, not just for territory or resources, but for freedom itself. The Council had thought humans were just another species to control and exploit. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Council erupted into chaos as the truth spread across their communications network. Miranda Ellis had taken the greatest risk of her life, using the emergency broadcast system to transmit the recording of the Triumvirate's meeting with the Dravidi throughout Council space. On 100 worlds, species that had been controlled for centuries heard the Lorixi, Vextari, and Genda discussing them as resources rather than allies. The carefully maintained illusion of the Galactic Council as a cooperative alliance shattered in an instant. The Valorians, a physically powerful species that had been subjugated for over 500 years, were the first to rise up. Their massive frames, long used for heavy labor in Council shipyards, now turned against their overseers. The telepathic Nyx collective followed, using their mental abilities to disrupt Council communication systems. The silicon-based Talarians, experts in technology, began disabling critical infrastructure. Miranda watched the chaos from her hiding place in a maintenance shaft. She had known broadcasting the truth would mean she could never return to her position, but she hadn't expected such an immediate and violent response. Now she had to focus on her escape. As she made her way toward the emergency shuttles, she passed scenes of confusion and conflict. Council security forces rushed to contain the spreading rebellion, while representatives from various species demanded answers from their Lorixi, Vextari, and Genda masters. On the other side of the station, Jack Simmons led his team toward the rendezvous point. Their mission to the Central Archive had been a success, but at a heavy cost. 3 team members had been killed during the extraction. Now Jack carried a data core containing the complete history of the Council's systematic exploitation of every species they had encountered. "Admiral Wright's ships will be in position soon," Jack told his remaining team. "We need to reach Docking Bay 12. As they turned a corner, they found their path blocked by Genda security forces. There was no time to find another route. "Go," said Nicole Watson, pulling out a modified mining charge. "I'll hold them off." "Nicole," Jack began. "The data is what matters." She cut him off. "Get it out. Now go." Jack hesitated only a second before nodding. He and the remaining team members ran in the opposite direction as Nicole faced the approaching Genda. In Earth orbit, Admiral Wright's fleet emerged from hiding. 23 ships, modified with reverse-engineered Council technology, moved into defensive positions around the planet. Council vessels are responding, reported her tactical officer. 15 ships moving to intercept. Olivia nodded. The Council ships were more advanced, but they hadn't expected resistance. Surprise was their greatest advantage. Begin broadcast, she ordered. Throughout Earth's solar system, Dr. Chen's counterfrequency began transmitting from stations hidden on Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. The signal spread, blocking the influence of Council translation devices and control implants. Across Earth, humans stopped mid-motion, suddenly free from subtle manipulation that had guided their actions for years. In the New York Health Screening Center, Captain Daniel Green watched as confused Council medical staff tried to maintain order. Humans who had lined up obediently for their screenings were now asking questions, demanding explanations, and in some cases, simply walking away. "It's working," Daniel said into his communicator. He had teams at similar facilities worldwide, ready to protect civilians if the Council forces turned violent. On Proxima Centauri 4, Frank Nelson and his miners faced the arrival of Council specialists, a full security force armed with weapons, not tools. As the Council ships landed, Frank's people took up defensive positions. The first wave of Council forces advanced confidently, expecting minimal resistance. They were met with modified mining lasers and improvised explosives. The narrow mine tunnels became a battlefield where the miners' knowledge of the terrain gave them a critical advantage. In space, the battle grew more intense. Council ships, realizing the threat was real, had called for reinforcements. Admiral Wright's fleet was now outnumbered 3-1. "Hull breach on Deck 5, reported her damage control officer. "Shields down to 30%. Olivia gripped her command chair. They couldn't win a prolonged battle. They just needed to hold out long enough for the counter-frequency to reach full coverage and for Jack's team to escape with the archive data. "Target their communication arrays," she ordered. "We don't need to destroy them. We just need to blind them." The human fleet adjusted tactics, focusing fire on the Council ship's sensor and communication systems rather than trying to destroy the vessels outright. Without coordination, the superior Council ships began to falter. On the Council station, Miranda finally reached Docking Bay 12, only to find Jack and his team pinned down by security forces. She quickly assessed the situation. There was no way to reach them without being seen. Taking a deep breath, Miranda stepped out into the open. "Security override Ellis Delta 7, she called out, using her counselor authorization. The security forces turned toward her, momentarily distracted. It was the opening Jack needed. His team rushed forward, catching the guards off guard. In the confusion, Miranda started toward the shuttle, but a bolt of energy from a Agenda weapon caught her in the side. She fell, clutching her wound. "Get the data out," she gasped as Jack reached her. "That's all that matters now." With a grim expression, Jack helped her to the shuttle. "We're all getting out," he insisted. As their shuttle escaped the station, they could see the rebellion spreading. Ships from various species were turning against Council vessels. The triumvirate had maintained control through secrecy and manipulation. Now that their lies were exposed, their power was crumbling. On Earth, Frank's miners had pushed back the Council forces. Similar reports came in from colonies throughout human space. The Council's carefully orchestrated takeover was falling apart, as their subject species rose up against them. Admiral Wright's fleet, though battered, still held position around Earth. When Jack's shuttle arrived with the archive data and Miranda's recording, Olivia finally allowed herself a small smile. "Broadcast everything," she ordered, "to every species in Council space." As the complete history of the Council's deception spread, the rebellion transformed into a revolution. Species that had been enemies under Council rule now found common cause against their true oppressors. 3 weeks later, representatives from all former Council species gathered on Earth. The Lorixi, Vexitari, and Genda triumvirate had been overthrown, their leaders held accountable for centuries of exploitation. Admiral Wright stood before the gathered representatives. "Today we begin something new," she said. Not a council where some rule over others, but a true alliance of equals. Outside the meeting hall, humans and aliens worked side by side, rebuilding what had been damaged in the conflict. Dr. Chen and Kevin Robinson shared their medical knowledge freely with doctors from other species. Frank Nelson and his miners taught their techniques to others who had labored under council oppression. On a hill overlooking the gathering, Jack Simmons stood beside Miranda Ellis. Her wound was healing slowly, but the doctors were confident she would recover. "They really thought they had us all figured out," Jack said, watching the diverse beings below. "They never expected we would fight back." Miranda smiled. "And they certainly never thought we'd all end up working together." As the sun set on the first day of the new alliance, humanity had earned not just its freedom, but its place among the stars. The council had thought they controlled the galaxy, but in the end, it was their own deception that destroyed them.